Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Dying Time is here. That's right, we're talking about Final Destination 5 on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Sawsville, USA, Canada, where apparently the Final Destination movies take place. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. That's right, we're going to unpack all the goriest details of Final Destination 5 in the hopes that a paper mill employee's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes that we might make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person that I trust to make sure my gift certificate to the massage parlor finds its way into her pants. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
Hang on, let me yank this acupuncture needle out of my chest.
I have a note about Isaac. And I want you to think about it a little bit, all right? Because we have a bit of a tradition here when it comes to someone described as a dirty peanut. And my secret belief is that Isaac is a dirty peanut, but he's dirty on the inside, Gina.
Oh, yeah, he's a complete pervert. And casually racist.
Yeah, oh, yes. I mean, but the most casual. There's no black tie event of racism he's going to. It's all like jeans.
It's jeans and sneakers.
It's all ties with mismatched colors and patterns with his shirts, that sort of deal. That kind of racism. He's also a misogynist, but I don't think he's a professional. I think he does it for the love. Now, I don't want to alarm you, Gina, but we are not alone. That is right. We have a special guest. Now, you might know him as a filmmaker or the managing editor of Dread Central, or, of course, his own podcast, Development Hell, the one, the only Josh Korngut. How are you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
We're thrilled to have you here, wanting to have you on for a while. And so what better reason than to cap off season 5, talking about the last Final Destination movie for now. Josh, what is your history with Final Destination? What was the first one you saw in theaters? Was it 5? Was it number 1? Tell us all about it.
That's a great question. I think it was one of the later ones, either 3 or 4. Definitely saw 5 in theaters with my dad at like 11 a.m. on a Sunday, which I think is like the perfect way to do it. I think it might have been 4 and 5 that I actually got to see in theaters, but I've seen them all, about 1 billion times because, these are cinema. This is my favorite kind of horror. So I'm very happy you asked me to join.
Was this like, because you're growing up at a different time than us, so we all have like those core franchises that attract us to horror because it's a very franchisey genre. So was Final Destination your thing? Was it Saw? What? It's kind of in that time frame. What was your go-to?
Well, my go-to was definitely the older stuff like A Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th. But I will say I had a very visceral connection with Final Destination because I remember being in the theater and there's like always in these movies like a close-up shot of like their gravestones. And I remember it was the first time a character in a movie was my age. Like someone, his gravestone said like 1989 to like now. And I was like, I guess I'm fair game. Like I guess it's my time. So that's my connection here.
No, I get that actually because I'm trying to remember. One of the reasons Jaws always freaked me out when I was a kid because that was the first movie I ever saw a kid get killed in, and rather horrifically, and that really just burned into my little brain.
I remember that particular sequence, seeing that at the Montrose Theater here in Montrose, California, vividly. Also, like, horror's that thing that allows us to, sort of exorcise those fear demons out of us in the safest way possible. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Whereas my connection to Final Destination was when the first one came out, I was flying all the fucking time for my job. And so the idea of getting on an airplane, I saw it crash every single time I got on. So to then see somebody do that and it ended up crashing was quite a wake-up call. And then, of course, my visceral love, and I've said this before, of the DVD of Final Destination, which had a menu on it in the special features that prognosticated your death.
Wow, I don't remember that.
Yes.
Beautiful.
It's unfortunately, I don't believe they've replicated that digitally. I don't appear to still have that DVD for whatever reason.
So how are you done?
Yes.
How are you going?
Yeah.
I outlived it. I'm still here, baby. It had me going out early, but I rose above. And
well, you beat death.
Right,
You
I was going to
finally
say,
did it.
there's you say that out loud, and a plane engine is going to just come right through the roof of your
the back of your head. Yeah.
Yep,
exactly.
No, but
like Patrick.
DVD
Hello,
menus,
Patrick.
they used to be so creative and so good. And this was the era, I think, where DVD menus were like peaked. Would be like the first Final Destination movie. I remember the 13 Ghosts DVD menu around the same time, really blowing my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it was a time. Those things made money. It was just like printing money. And then someone decided we shouldn't have physical things. It should all exist in a place where it can disappear at a moment's notice. That's how we'll make money, which was a great business plan. No notes. It's working out fantastic for everyone. I've been out of work for months. Anyways, we're not here to talk about my financial situation. We're here to talk about Final Destination 5. So a bit of background here real fast. After the Final Destination's insane box office haul, and of course, for almost all of our franchises, with the exception of Scream, Gina, the worst movie earns the absolute most out of the franchise.
I know.
And then they're like, well, we can't fucking end this. Obviously, there's an appetite for more Final Destination movies. And so they go to CinemaCon and they announce we got a five coming out in theaters in 2011. It's also going to be filmed in 3D. And they don't promise it at the time. They just deliver on 7 font, meeting Friday the 13th shattering glass and explosion motifs. Again, with bones. Lots of bones, Gina. But in the movie, no one appears to have bones.
We're just soft and squishy.
I'm like, if you
one character has a lot of bones, but
I was gonna say,
but she
someone has
took she took all the bones with her.
Yeah. And I feel like
She was
Isaac's
loaded with bones.
got a bit of a bone as well.
It's true. But this is like a weird phenomenon I think we started to see in 3 a lot and is definitely present in 4. And that is just that the bodies are made of rubber. Like,
Gumby.
I don't know if you remember the Final Destination. We just covered it. But Josh, in that a person's leg gets pulled into an escalator and it's just flabby meat. There's no bones in that leg.
Yuck.
I feel like they've exhausted all the bone supply for the opening credits, and then you get to the movie and they're like, well, did you bring any bones? And they're like, nope, we don't have any bones money anymore.
A lot of bones.
A lot of lacking bones. Do you remember, I'm sorry, this is dumb, but in Harry Potter, there was a really freaky scene where someone accidentally loses all their bones in their leg for some reason because a spell goes wrong. It's really gross.
Yes. Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. That spell is pretty much across the board in this movie with one exception. I think it is worth noting because it's weird how things work, but the script here is by Eric Heisserer. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize to Eric. But he's had some ups and downs in this industry. Notably, he earned an Oscar nomination for the adapted screenplay of Arrival in 2016, which is a great movie. But earlier in his screenwriting career, he penned the 2010 Thing prequel, which Cursed would just be the beginning of how
would you say
that turned out.
the writing that was cursed? Or was it like...
No.
Yeah.
I would say it was the moment that a Universal executive said, I don't like how I can see what's happening here.
It looks too
Fuck
good.
it up
Make
digitally.
It CGI. Exactly.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
I also think the third act in that is fucking weird, but I don't know how else you're gonna do it. It's an impossible standard to meet. But I do feel like they do actually lay out the plot reasonably well. Here's another script that the problem is not the script. It's the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which he penned as well.
Oh, no.
No, that's the script that brought everyone on board. And then when they got to filming, they're like, fuck this shit. And they made just the worst version of Nightmare on Elm Street you possibly could. And all the ideas that are good that he had are just chucked in favor of Not Your Daddy's Freddy.
Micro Naps. Was that him? Was he Micro Nap guy?
Micro Naps is him, but he also had the idea that Freddy is actually innocent and that you have the dad who's the police chief was the real villain. So that
ACAB.
The revenge makes sense. We know why he's going after these kids, to punish the parents who killed him when he was innocent. And so you have a villain in the physical world and you have a villain in the dream world. And all of a sudden, that's a good idea, baby. Now you got a stew going. But the actual movie is like, oh, no. It would be much better if we focus on Freddy's being a pedo.
Yeah. It was a bummer and bad. I always want to rewatch it, and I'm like, maybe it's not that bad. And then it always is.
It always is that bad.
Yeah.
It's just terrible. It is mind-numbingly bad.
I prefer it to number 6. Is that bad? I'm sorry, I do.
Well, listen, I'm not going to doubt anyone's emotional reaction to art when it's genuine. I just don't.
All right.
It's a waste of time. Mm-hmm. People should like what they like and don't like what they don't, and never be argued into or out of it. It's fine. It's ice cream. We all like ice cream if you like a different flavor than me.
I'll argue you. Sorry.
Yeah. But when someone says, oh, I love Dreamchild, then I start looking at them weird. That's, to me, the hardest no out of that orig section.
Harder than Freddy's Dead?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a tough call. Honestly, I think that's a tough call.
I mean,
6 has an idea of what it is, right? Because unlike some of the other ones, it didn't start in the middle of a writer's strike. Like it wants to be a cartoon.
Yeah, and it sure is.
And if you don't like the cartoon version of it, you're not going to like it. But 5 is convinced that it's real high art and drama.
Oh, it is.
And also, it's got something to say.
Yeah.
And what it has to say is that your idea that you have rights to your own body are wrong.
Whoa.
It thinks it's pro-choice, but then delivers a complete forced burst narrative because no one knows what they're doing. And ultimately, I think we all learned from talking about that, Gina, was that it would have been better if that rap had been the thing that killed Freddy. If her rapping, that rap they all rap together, if that had been the thing that killed Freddy, then 5 stars, no notes.
5 is bad. There's no doubt about it. But there's something about that middle trilogy that is just so wholesome and comforting to me. So I accept it.
I think it's all about what it comes down to. I mean, I've always had warm and fuzzy feelings about 4.
Well, 4 is cinema.
We watched it and we're like, well, at one point, a guy gets killed in a sensual dojo by a ghost.
And it's amazing.
But just like an invisible fucking man because they've run out of money. And you're kind of like, well, is it bad? Yes. Does it harm me as a person? Absolutely not. It's a weird middle ground where I don't agree with everything, but I also can't really hate it.
It's
5
genius.
is where I kind of draw the line.
Fake Christian Slater is the best. I love him. And I wouldn't change a thing.
I don't have a problem with the actor, nor do I have a problem with him mimicking Christian Slater, because who amongst us? My voice has often been compared to Christian Slater if he was drunk.
You do sound like Christian Slater.
I know. Yeah.
Cool.
It's cool if I could enunciate, Josh. That's the hard part. I really have to concentrate on actually hitting plosives.
And it's very Heather's version of him too, now that I'm listening. So
yeah.
Cool.
Well, I came of an age, you know. So let's return, unfortunately, back to Final Destination. We could talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street all day, and we have. We did for a full fucking year. But we could probably do it for another year. But Eric pens the script for this, and it goes to a brand new director for the first time in the Final Destination franchise. Someone else is coming in to direct. And so this movie is just constantly confounded by the need of this franchise to cast roles with similar looking people. I'm not sure what it is, but if they see one person, they're like, what if we found two of those people?
I was also really distracted by how much the one actor looked like a sort of Wish Tom Cruise.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Yeah, a Tom Cruise by Sheen sort of thing.
Yeah,
with his eyebrows.
I love his eyebrows.
I think he was trying. I think somebody told him that he looked vaguely like him, and he kind of like ran with it.
I prefer him to Tom Cruise. If I be real with you, he's got fashion eyebrows. He's got the Cara Delevingne.
Sure. Yes. I mean, they're statement brows. I don't begrudge them.
Yeah,
like it's the reason you can tell the difference between him and the other guy.
It's the eyebrow.
But if you were like to look away and say, point to which one is Sam, point to which one is Peter, you would be like aiming for eyebrows every single time because there's no difference in their initial characters or physical appearance. They like came out of a mold press, and then everywhere else, so like, I don't know, a blonde, a brunette, someone who puts on glasses.
A lot of center parts happening. A lot of long hair. None of the girls are allowed to have short hair in these movies. It's always like the long, luxurious hair.
Very flat though for the time, you know.
Yeah. Well, it was a confusing time in between decades. We hadn't chosen a path for ourselves.
Yeah.
Again, longtime listeners will know that the reason why these decades were so weird was that we were all supposed to die in Y2K. And when it didn't happen, we all went slightly insane, which also, again, happened when we were all supposed to die in a pandemic. It didn't. And then we all went insane.
Now we're just a different kind of insane.
Yeah, it's shades, you know.
So it's the glitch. That makes sense.
Yeah, kind of.
San Junipero.
Yeah. So welcome to wherever the fuck this is. I suppose if the first one took place in some part of New York, this is also someplace in New York, but the other three movies never really define where they are. They live in a place with trees, but it's not Canada, but it's not America. We often refer to it as Sawsville, USA, Canada, where all the Saw movies take place.
Yeah.
Where you can die for being a vigilante cop, or if you're just caught in a love triangle, you're still going to get sawed in half because that's the way things work there. Mm-hmm. So this is also a very arbitrary place. The first character we meet is named Sam. He's about to be fired. His girlfriend is breaking up with him, but he's very unsure whether anything should change about his life. He could be described as thicker than Mississippi mud.
Yeah, he just looks slightly perturbed about everything.
Yeah, he has head shake disease. He has that George Clooney on ER problem where George Clooney, everyone's like, you're really handsome. He's like, do I have a character? They're like, no. You're really handsome.
No, he has a character. He can cook.
He can't. Yes, that is a character.
Hello.
Guy who can cook.
But
he just head bobs and half smiles a lot through this movie. And then we have fashion eyebrows, Peter. He's, for some reason, Sam's boss, which you can, is one of the ways you can tell them apart. One is in charge and the other one isn't. Also, spoiler alert for Final Destination 5 if you haven't seen it, but we're just going to spoil it right here. Okay. The movie came out over a decade ago. get with the times.
Whoa.
But the biggest giveaway that this movie is a secret prequel is that a character arrives in a car listening to Everclear.
Yeah. I was thinking that too.
I was like, what year is it supposed to be?
Yes, the Everclear, and then the Lisa Loeb reference immediately. Yeah. And I was like, okay, they don't know who that is.
And the flip phone. I mean, it's just throwing it at you in a way that is like, did anyone fall for this? It seems like weird that people fell for it, because Everclear is one of those things that just culturally we decided we don't need this. We can leave that behind. It was a bad idea at the time. It's gotten even worse since. So we just say no to Everclear as a choice. It also does not project I'm in a good place in my life when someone arrives listening to Everclear. That is,
I'm 5 minutes away from death. I will say I did buy into it because all of the styling was not appropriate for the time period.
Sure.
Yeah, no, they were like, it was...
This was American Apparel era 100%.
Yeah, it was a little half-assed. Like, I think that they, weren't willing to have everybody dress like it was a decade earlier. So they kind of throw these sort of, vague cultural references in.
Yeah, there was those boot cut, like, Old Navy jeans that kind of, I was like, no, come on, guys.
Well, let me tell you, when I had hair down to my shoulder, it worked for like half a second, those bootcut jeans. But then I woke up and I got myself right, and I never listened to Everclear again. And it's a decision I don't regret. Molly, on the other hand, our resident blonde. Not so much. She is blonde. She is sad. She has shittier taste in boyfriends than she does in music, which is really saying something. And she has arrived, and Sam is like, oh my gosh, I just was notified that you canceled your ticket that we're going to take on this trip to Paris. And she's like, yeah, can we not talk about that? And this is the first indication that something is very wrong in this company, because not only have they not told you what they do, they haven't told you the name of the company. And this is when you start to think, wait a second, is this company's business fucking? Is that what they sell? Mm-hmm. Because then Peter is sleeping with an intern. The intern is one of the owners of the business's daughter.
Yeah, this is all very incestuous. Like, everybody's friends, everybody's like, because it's one of the things that Final Destination loves is, and having an excuse for these people to be constantly together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So before they were classmates, which makes sense. Then before that, in the last one, they were like two sets of couples, I think, and like one girl that kind of just hangs around. Now they're coworkers.
Yeah.
And I mean, Patrick, you have an excuse to hang around a lot with your coworker. You're married to her.
Yes,
but
legally.
Most people, end of the day, they're like, well, see you Tuesday. But this movie, they have to have this sort of labored, well, they're friends, and some of them are sleeping together, and this one's, father and daughter, and so they have to have an excuse for why after this disaster happens, they would still be clinging to each other, even though if you were in a horrific disaster with your coworkers, you'd be like, yeah, I'm just gonna pretend I don't know any of you after this. I don't want to have to think about this.
Yeah, what did they do? Like, what was the job?
Apparently, it is a paper company.
Okay.
Why a paper company would be called Presage, which sounds like whatever you would call the pale person in a pit who prognosticates when crimes occur.
Why they have to go to like a team building seminar that sort of suggests that they're like investment bankers or day traders or something. Like you're selling paper, and there's a very motivational speech type of atmosphere.
Maybe someone was really into The Office.
I was thinking that. I was like, is this some sort of like, Office reference?
I bet it was. Because there's the upstairs people and the downstairs people.
David Koechner, I don't know if he actually ever was on The Office. I feel like he must have been at some, but he was kind of, overlapped into all of those people. And I'm just like, is this supposed to be like kind of a gag? Like, like it's like, oh, they work for a company like The Office.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it really is what are people culturally aware of when it comes to companies? And it was this or a tech company or some shitty website. And they're like, oh, no.
Well, a tech company would have made more sense for why some of these people are just, again, assholes.
Yeah, well,
racist assholes. Yeah,
yeah. Usually it's what someone majors in many of our movies. This seems to be just the type that this company hires. That intern is named Candace, and she arrives in what appears to be MASH cosplay for some reason. She was in the Korean War. I don't know what that jacket's doing. It's an odd choice.
There's some interesting. I'm going to a team building seminar with my coworkers' outfits happening in this scene.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of these people, to steal a bit from Mystery Science Theater 3000, like every frame of this movie is someone's last known photo. There's just like a doomed, not in their character sense, but like the wattage of the bulb doesn't burn as bright for me here. It's just a little underwhelming. But here to rescue us from all that is a character who bounds out of a boogie van and one of the less natural exits I've ever seen in my life. She's named Olivia. She's a reverse. She's all that. She's a girl at the company who attempts to look less sexy by putting glasses on, even while just showing up with a bra.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, even though these are presumably grown women, like she's still got the sniping thing going back and forth with I've already forgotten her name, Candace. Where again that's a Final Destination thing where these characters are forced together through circumstance, but cannot stop being shitty to each other.
Well, because they all have to be in competition for male attention because, that's all that exists.
This is true. And they really never stop. No matter how dire things get, they all remain with the same attitude. So at least they're consistent. I'm just not enjoying the consistency. And into this mix, it is Isaac. Now, I'm going to... Josh, you may not be aware, but we have a character type on the show that we like to refer to as a dirty peanut. And this is someone who's just grimy on the outside. And my belief is that Isaac is one of the first dirty on the inside dirty peanuts we've ever covered on the show. He's just gross for no particular reason other than someone had to be gross, like they picked the attribute out of a hat.
I will say for him, though, at least he's honest about how horrible and disgusting he is. There's nothing being held back, and I can appreciate that, so I can steer clear.
He's a natural when it comes to that. Also, pro tip for everyone out there in the audience, never refer to another human being as mall face. That is not.
He had some good ones. I'm sorry. There were a couple of zingers where he got them, and I said, "Good for you. Good for you." when he's like picks up, it's all very offensive. But he like picks up the phone and is like, "You're the bigger girl, right?" And I was like, "Oh my god, it's so bad." But
he knows multiple women named Kimber.
Yeah, I mean, we all do, right?
Sure, we all do.
We all know Kimber 1 and 2. And it was like, was trying to like hook up dates like outside of town. He made me laugh. He did.
He is the one character here that I think that when we started talking about Friday the 13th, one of my big fascinations was, you're going to die here. How do you make your character sing in the time you have available so that you might be memorable? And I think he's the one who accomplishes that the easiest.
Oh, for sure. And I think like we're starting to get a little bit self-aware with these archetypes by, what is this, 2011 or whatever. And I think there are moments where they succeed with Isaac because, 5-10 years earlier, they wouldn't have been aware of what this character was doing. He would just be offensive and gross. But I think they kind of went scream with it. They kind of knew what he was up to.
Yeah. And then we have Nathan, who is in charge of the factory within this, up until this point, nondescript business where they produce employees to sleep with. I don't know. I don't know how it works. But he's having problems with some guy in the factory, and the subtle inference here is that he's too young, and also that he's too black.
Yeah, for sure.
Some of the factory workers who are not fans of that. So that's fun to watch.
Yeah.
May we all have problems on the level that Sam does when he says, they want to send me to the flagship restaurant in Paris. Like, that is not a problem.
Go.
That is not a problem. If what you want to do is cook, you go to Paris, goddammit. Because
he's not good at sales. So.
Thank God there's a face that we can all recognize in David Koechner, who's there to be mean and stupid. And he excels at both. And so they all gather onto one bus, and they're off for the company retreat. And now we're at the Death-tacular, where we flash forward to what their deaths are supposed to be. So we open on the caution bridge under construction sign. We catch a 180 Corporation Consulting Taggart logging truck. That's a Final Destination 2 reference. Some assholes cutting into the bridge.
Yeah.
Don't cut into a bridge. That seems like a bad fucking idea.
You should at least put up a cone or something if you're gonna be cutting into the bridge.
Yeah, one cone.
We're gonna get to the most we'll get to it. I'm gonna put a pin in cutting into the fucking concrete of a bridge. We also passed by a bubbling cauldron of tar. That won't come into play later on.
No.
Sam gets a cut on his thumb, and that's the one thing he wakes up to, as it were, as an identifying record skip, so that when we come back and that happens, he knows he's repeating something. We also hear Kansas's Dust in the Wind. Gina, aren't you a big fan of Kansas's album covers?
I do like their album covers. I implore anyone listening to this, you just Google Kansas album covers. They're just Baroque masterpieces.
Wow.
They seem metal as fuck for a band that is ostensibly acoustic guitar rock.
Yeah, they're like, if your dad was like a 70s guy, he probably listened to Kansas. I know my dad did.
Yeah. My dad didn't. He was a Ike and Tina Turner fan.
Well, that's good too.
Yeah. That works.
So underneath the bridge is a sailboat. That'll come into play later. We got another guy with a cement saw who causes a cascading crack in the surface tension of the roadway. And
you think he got in trouble for that later? You think he got a write-up?
Yes, I think he did get a write-up at the very least. It's an incredibly stupid way to behave. I don't know what the point of it is. Just saw into concrete on a bridge. I don't know what it.
I mean, particularly with like the bridge is still in use. Yeah, that seems not well thought out.
No, it really thought out is probably not what is happening here, and I would say that it goes across the board. But as soon as the cracks begin to appear, the support cables begin to give away almost immediately. Candace zigs when she really should zag, and ends up getting falling off of the bridge and speared on the top of that sailboat, and her guts go woo up towards the camera like it's Jaws 3D.
The best 3D.
Exactly. You get it, Josh.
Oh, yeah.
Isaac must have been having a really good convo, because he ends up staying on that bus when everyone runs off until the point it actually crashes into the river below.
He actually probably has the least horrifying death in this scene.
But he sees it coming. It's a lot of, you can't do anything about it, and it's a long time.
And it
coming.
didn't feel good too.
Yeah. And the other thing is, when they see it, when we flash back and they actually get off the bridge, the bus falls backwards into the river.
So he would have fallen into the toilet then. That's how I'm going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all how we're destined to go, Gina. We definitely got toilet deaths in our,
it's very Friday
in our future. Whether it's an indoor or an outdoor toilet, I think we've talked about toilet deaths enough that it's probably going to happen. Olivia loses her glasses like a real Velma.
Yeah.
And that'll come into play later. The bridge collapses in front of Sam and Molly as they and they head for a railing section to get across what is basically a balance beam of two severed connector beams. Olivia tries and fails, and she gets wily coyoted by a falling car. She falls into the river, lives.
Yeah.
Smushed by a car.
How did she not explode on impact? I feel like you'd die. But she didn't, and that's okay.
It's the thing about hitting the water is that from a certain distance, it's really just as hard as concrete.
Yeah.
But again, we don't come to Final Destination for reality. This is not. We don't buy a ticket and go one for the most realistic movie we've ever seen, Final Destination 5. So like it's trying to upend expectations. So I'll give it that. I mean, I didn't expect her to get wily coyoted.
I do wish she would have held up a little sign that said "Yipe" right before it happened.
I thought she was
Really
going to
the
go
only thing
but she didn't.
Nathan basically explodes on contact when he gets swiped by bridge cable support.
I missed Nathan's death. I like blinked and I missed it.
Yeah, he just burst like a balloon.
I was like, did he even die? But no, yeah, you did.
I mean, he's not alive, but also no bones. That's a no bones death. He just explodes.
Like the eyeball later on.
Yeah. Keckner takes a wave of boiling tar to the face.
That's the worst. That's the worst one for me.
That was not fun for him at all. But you know what? Yeah. Not to jump ahead, but like his later death kind of made up for it.
Sure, I agree with that. Peter and Sam leap onto a section of railing that's kind of hanging off. And this seems to be a really great idea. But there's also a truck teetering over the edge that just happens to have every deadly instrument known to man. And so there's a
what movie? What was it? A Naked Gun movie where like the guy's trying to escape, like he's getting out of ropes and he's like shaking like a cabinet and like the stuff keeps falling off the cabinet, hitting him in the head.
Yes,
like a bowling ball, like an anvil, something like that. I feel like it's something like that.
This is basically a Naked Gun movie, really.
Yeah, I mean, all it needs is OJ, and I mean that. Not OJ the character. OJ Simpson needs to be in this post-trial and everything.
Wow, they're already in enough danger as it is.
But the truck happens to have, it's filled to the brim with that kind of rebar that can just penetrate your skull completely with only 10 feet of clearance.
No bone.
There's no bones. He should have a skull.
It's like putting a pencil through a lump of Play-Doh.
Really? Everyone's body is very smooth and just no resistance whatsoever. It's not like it's coming from 25 feet. This is just above his head, and it just seems to slice through him like a hot knife through butter. You know, we're not coming for reality, but I do for 6. I would really like people to come pre-installed with bones in their head. And if you're wondering if he hits the water, he does after his body hits a concrete pylon.
That was genius.
He gets a Titanic treatment or just bounces off of something.
It's so sad. It's so like demeaning, and it's beautiful.
It is very Titanic-esque. I like that. By Peter. Sam starts climbing up. Now, Molly, unharmed at this point. We never see her death because Sam is sliced in half by metal sheeting, again, falling from maybe 5-7 feet above him. I don't, is it rocket powered? I don't exactly know how there would be enough force for this to actually happen, but there you go.
Because he's a weak little marshmallow. It makes sense.
And we're out. That's it. It's an interesting zig there to be the person who has the prognostication see someone live. So that'll come back into play. Again, there's some interesting plays in the formula here that I do genuinely enjoy. Maybe get a new casting director. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, but how good did it look? Like that bridge, I was so impressed with the bridge destruction. It was like gorgeous. It was beautiful. It felt like Avatar.
It is a bigger achievement, certainly, than the NASCAR situation in the Final Destination.
But
that is
not quite as big of an achievement as the roller coaster of love, though.
Roller coaster's interesting as a
the roller
theme
coaster
park employee. I have problems with the roller coaster.
Well, as someone, I don't know, it's just so funny and stupid. I love it.
I mean, the part 2 is always going to be the most memorable one because everybody thinks about it when they see a truck with logs.
Part 2 is my favorite one.
Yeah, I never begrudge anyone. I especially think that opening Deathtacular is the high point for the franchise. And so we're now post this. He has the flashback. He gets the cut on the thumb. He hears dust in the wind. He gets a bunch of them off. As per usual in the Final Destination universe, when someone avoids that death, all of a sudden that Deathtacular takes much less time to take place. It's just instantly faster than it was when they were actually involved. For whatever reason, maybe they're changing destiny, but hey, it happens, they're safe. And so we are introduced to yet again another federal agent who's been tasked with building a case against death.
This is this was something obviously that puzzled me in the first one. It's like, what do they think he did? Like he's saying that he had a premonition.
Yeah.
And so this police officer, like Courtney B. Vance, who's been in many other movies, is looking at him very suspiciously, like, did you have something to do with this? I think we're going to be seeing it. What do you think he did?
Well, I'm sorry. I think all of the protagonists from all of these movies, if this was real life, would end up in Guantanamo Bay so fast that they would wish death would come, because I feel like it would be worse for them what was actually going to happen.
I mean, when he says it was a vision, Courtney B. Vance is like, oh, yeah, psychic phenomenon, ghosts, Bigfoot. Dude, ghosts and Bigfoot weren't involved in this bridge collapse in which a construction crew was jackhammering the surface of a fucking bridge.
It could have been Bigfoot. It could have been.
Yeah.
He's like surprised when, we got the report in. It was, they
high winds.
The high winds. He's like, high winds. He's like sputtering
high winds is it's obviously this halftime paper salesman / cook who got broken up by his girlfriend. He obviously caused a bridge collapse by what now? Like, how does this work? Is this a RICO case?
You would be like, this is terrorism. You would be like, this is 100% terrorism. Like, put him in prison.
I don't understand if I don't. Legally, it is tenuous. And listen, I'm happy to have Courtney B. Vance here. He's got the hottest chick in the game wearing his chain. Mm-hmm. I love Courtney B. Vance, but he is given a yeoman's task as any federal official or police detective is in a Final Destination movie, in which they're running around going, well, death certainly is happening around you, but everyone sees the vast majority of these deaths take place, and they know you're not causing them. So the fuck you gonna do? Like, handcuff fate? Please, you've got, this is a trope that needs to go. That we can see this wave bye-bye. It works when a plane explodes. The rest of these things are just fucking crazy accidents. And they don't work that way. We lost it for a little while. Now it's come back.
If I was a cop, I would be like, oh, so Tony Todd did this.
Right, exactly.
I would just
Tony
know.
Todd should be under federal law.
Go down to the funeral home. Talk to that guy.
We need to talk to Tony Todd.
He's got too much gravitas. His voice is too fucking boss.
It's dangerous.
Something's going wrong there.
Yeah. Candyman is up to this.
Listen, if I get to hang out in a trailer village with Courtney B. Vance, I'm going to do it and everything. I love hanging out with Tony Todd. I'm all for it. But honestly, those two characters should be talking and hashing this out, and everyone else
Oh my
Just
God, I would love
splattering.
to watch those two hanging out, just like watching everyone die on like security cameras.
Yeah. So what would a Final Destination be without an awkward ass funeral? We get one of those, which Isaac is listed as one of the people who has died.
That would happen to me.
Yeah.
That was funny. I love that. And I love that Isaac was like, shut up. You like he was like so offended by her laughing.
Yeah, no, you honestly, like, I have laughed at funerals and I feel terrible about it. I know we're pressed for time. I do have a funny story about laughing at a funeral. I'll tell you another time, Patrick.
Okay.
Did you murder
Put a pin in that.
Because it's okay if you did. Just don't say it on a podcast.
I did not murder anyone.
Yet, Gina, yet.
That's my disclaimer. Yet.
Our old pal Bloodworth shows up here to deliver a creepy and cryptic message and disappear like a ninja again. I don't know.
Is it very cryptic though? Because it sounds like
don't fuck with this. This one is cryptic. When he shows up later and goes, if you kill somebody, you get their time. Like this is that In Time movie with Justin Timberlake. That's new information. And this is a prequel. So he could have told that to the first or second group of people and doesn't.
Well, because he did it once and he was like, that's enough. They can figure it out from now on.
Listen, they're on their own.
Yeah.
Sam and Molly tried to get back together. And who would deny them? The chemistry between them is just electric.
They're together forever.
And that's why it keeps shorting out. Cut to the National Gymnastics Championship of Sawville, USA, Canada. Candace nearly steps on a screw many times. And
this
foot damage.
This is so prolonged. This
No, it's beautiful. This, I'm sorry, is high art cinema. That little screw deserves a retroactive Oscar nomination.
Best supporting actor.
Tiny screw that almost gets you in the foot. Good for that.
But get somebody else in the foot. Like eventually, someone gets that foot.
Yeah. I will say it is as prolonged as it does really good. Because this is something I complained about in the last one, but this one does do a really good job of making you try to figure out.
It's brutal.
What it is that's going to take her out. Because it's not going to be the screw because it's never the first thing that they encounter. But there's a lot of shit going on in this gym at the same time, and so then they end up kind of like having this thing from out of nowhere.
Yeah. I love it. This is one of the best deaths I think in horror history right here.
The land wrong because dust gets in your eye and that's another no bones death. Like. There were some bones.
There were some
bones in this death. I'm sorry.
There's some bones. There's not as many bones as in It Follows, because too many bones in the same kind of scene in It Follows. But
all the bones had to wait for Isaac because he got crunched and cracked. But I love this death. I think this death.
It's a good. I think it's a good death. Actually, I didn't love this movie, but I think this is a pretty good death.
Oh, I love this movie.
It's definitely a memorable one, and it's one that a lot of people point to.
And I think
it's the building of the tension rather than the payoff.
I think they made. I do think they made a mistake in making this the first one because I feel like they kind of like expended all of their energy on this one, where this one should have been like a midpoint death because
I think it was I respect that, but I don't know, it really got my energy going for this movie. This death, it's so painful. I love it.
It's you can see it in your head, whereas some of these I think are prolonged teases. Like Isaac's is the perfect example of just an extended tease where it's out to punish him more than deliver a fantastic denouement. So from that standpoint, him going into this massage parlor, getting physically assaulted by a woman in her 50s, I'm all for that.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Like his is more like, it's like a joke, like from start to finish, like a well-crafted joke, even though it's gross. But
it's another one where liquid has a lot to do with it. Without water, I do wonder where the Final Destination franchise is.
And like CGI goop water always.
Yeah. Loves it.
It's like Moana, the water's a character.
Sure, yes. Again, if Courtney B. Vance is out there trying to arrest water, I'm here for that subplot.
100%. And he could.
Yes. He's got the evidence. It's the only evidence he has. So Isaac kicked over a plastic tub of something flammable.
I think it's like some kind of sanitizer or something that
something flammable. But he also manages to get a bunch of acupuncture needles, which were already in his body, but he falls off the massage table.
And then they all go into him.
Okay. Onto him.
So this is my time to shine because my aunt is an acupuncturist. And they are not that big. They are
they're really not. They're
that
not
big.
like
They do not go that deep. They are little itty bitty babies, and if you like flick them, they fall off. So
yeah, they're not like barbecue skewers.
Yeah,
they're like little thin little needles.
Yeah, I know. So
but
like,
I think the owner of that place has real needles and needles she uses decoratively when you flirt with her niece.
Yeah, the like sexual, like the sex pest needles.
The sex pest needles. And he gets the box marked sex pest.
And he deserves it.
He falls on them, and that was another groan out of me. Because
it was gross. And the pull out of that one needle, I was like covering the screen, and it's like 20 seconds. It's a long time.
It's a lot of needle to pull out of yourself. But this is all for naught. He gets thrown by an explosion against the wall, and somehow his towel stays on, which, come on. Let's see what that dick is doing. But no, we're denied. And on a shelf is a very heavy Buddha statue, which falls off and just smushes his head.
I loved it.
He shouldn't have fat shamed the Buddha.
No. Yeah, that's what happens when you fat shame Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
Good for Buddha.
Only asking for it.
Yeah. I love it.
And then this is also the scene which Bloodworth gives them the if you kill somebody, you earn their time. Still so weird. We're all walking around with extra time on us, but when you're murdered, you get time?
But it's like that Nickelback video where everybody has a little like clock above their heads. You know what? Yeah, you do. Yeah,
but spoiler, before you kill someone, you might want to get a complete report on their health.
Yeah.
Yes.
You need a Carfax for how many years they have left in them. But congratulations, Josh. That is, I think, in our 7-year history, our first reference to that band. So in the same episode in which we talked about Everclear for the first time. So
I am a Canadian, so it kind of is full circle here.
Well, now you have the beaches, and they're so much better.
Thank you.
So now that they have this information, Olivia, our hot girl with glasses, is like, fuck them glasses. I'm going to go to Lasik and get rid of this. She gets sexually harassed by the ophthalmologist.
Oh, yeah.
And he straps her head onto this thing. And there's a long sequence in which a water cup falls off of a water thing and it shorts out the laser machine, and she can sense that it's happening. She tries to reach for the stop button and it goes awry, and she just gets laser straight in the eye.
I in my memory, she doesn't actually get lasered. Like it was like just a fake out, but she does. She gets real eyeball lasered.
And her hand.
Yes.
And handball laser too.
That is my greatest fear of that whole LASIK situation. That feels like that's what I think it is.
That is.
I know it isn't, but that's what I think it is.
Well, the problem with this scene is that it's this part is great, and then like how she actually dies is the dumbest shit.
This is the worst one.
She like slips on like a teddy bear's nose and like goes flying out a window.
That window would not. That window. Prison for that window.
She should not have been able to fall that easily through that window.
And she weighs like 110 pounds. No.
Yeah.
Good setup, terrible punchline.
Yes. The movie loves defenestration. I love defenestration. I just think you have such a nice setup with the whole laser thing. I just don't, it feels to me like another version of that the kid who's supposed to be 5 and they turned him into a 14-year-old
in the dentist's office.
In the dentist's office.
Where it would have worked.
Amazing.
It would have worked much better if it had been like the tanning booth kill, which was also very memorable and very well done, I thought.
Hilarious. I'm sorry, but when they smash cut from them in the tanning booth to their coffins side by side, I love it.
I love a good smash cut like that. That like kind of references how they died.
Yeah, and why are they being buried together? Like
a Bram Stoker's Dracula, when like a severed head goes right to like a roast beef on like the table.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, cinema.
Oh my God!
God bless the movies.
Yeah,
I mean, Josh, once upon a time, when we were covering the Friday the 13th movies, one of the things that we found in like the wikis for the franchise was that anyone who was killed together, someone had made it their job in life to write that the characters were buried together, one on top of the other. And then when we after talking about it and our first, blossom of listenership, it suddenly disappeared. And I really wish we had taken some screenshots, Gina, because
people think we're making it up.
Everyone thinks we're making it up now.
No,
it's like it's documented in time. We did. I could not have come up with that in a million fucking years.
Okay, so poor Roy, because Roy wasn't in the opening. Do you think, is Roy like our first death in this franchise that like
is completely arbitrary?
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
he does,
with the exception of the Deathtacular, or
of course,
like weird explosions. It does seem to be the most arbitrary, but I think the only reason it does happen is because now that we have this completely new information from Bloodworth, there has to be someone who is the proof of concept.
Yes. And I was extra confused because in this Deathtacular, he was the death that I missed. I blinked and I met Nathan, and then he didn't die then. And I was like, does Nathan live? Are they going to which kind of could have been cool, but no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and it's obviously it's another accident here, but it does prove the concept that you somehow buy time by killing someone else. And so that's our one of our big twists here. And I do like the idea of these twists because at the point where we introduce this concept, it does set up a more believable adversarial relationship than we get in some of the other films, where there's just one Ben Affleck-like asshole who just wears tracksuits and goes, "I'm going to kill you," but for personal reasons. Here, we're giving motivation. If I kill you, I somehow thwart Death's plan and I buy myself extra time. This is in concept, a very interesting zig or zag on the formula.
I have a question for you. What do you think the chances are that they're going to keep up with that in the new one that's supposed to be underway? Zero. Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to completely just that never happened.
They're going to do whatever the hell they want, and I respect it.
It's been enough time that I think there is a pent up demand for them because these are on your fun end of popcorn horror movies. So there's been enough time where I think you could come through with a really fun version of this movie without feeling the need to super shake up the formula. I don't think it needs that. I think it needs thoughtful, strategic direction and good casting. And then
simple.
Yes. It's what it comes down to. You don't need to fuck with it too much. Just bring it back to the point where it's fun and semi-believable and unexpected in the sense of how deaths work, but you don't have to overcomplicate it with linking it to the quadrig.
And they did it perfectly this time. They really wrapped it up great. Send it to space. Anyways, no.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So
we get
Roy.
Dennis gets killed with a wrench to the face off a belt sander.
Real fast. Although we got some practical gore here when they show him on the ground and his head is all bashed in. There's a little bit of practical gore in this movie, which I really did appreciate because I think this franchise sometimes goes with the CGI blood just a little too much.
They love sponge bodies here. And when people splode, there's something to that. I get that, but everyone can't splode.
No.
So I feel like this is an improvement on the practicals that they sprinkled in 4 because bones. And so now we've set up a basic a standoff here between our last triumvirate of real active participants of Sam, Peter, and Molly.
It was interesting.
Peter, thrown by the fact that his gymnast girlfriend cannot stick a landing, has decided his way out of this is to murder some people, namely Peter and particularly Molly, because Peter has made a big deal of the fact that she did not die in his vision. So therefore, she has the most clearance out of every of them.
I get it. If I would be the Peter in the group, you know. You know what? Fuck these people. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and what happens is Agent Block gets shot in the back 3 times.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't shoot him in the back 3 times. That's true.
But that sets up the other problem here is whereas at one point, you know, Peter and Molly the authorities might feel they have it coming because there's already an established pattern, but Block has 0 to do with it. So now he's got double the motivation. He has to kill Sam and Molly because they witnessed the murder.
Kill them.
So, yeah.
I kind of liked it. It was kind of like a fun action moment with the kitchen drama.
Yeah.
It was.
It's a place full of danger.
So much danger, so much fire, so much oil.
Yes. And the friars are really put into the test. I will say in the establishing sequence in the kitchen, Sam is shown cutting foie gras that he is deep fried. He's cutting it on a dinner plate. You would never do that.
I mean,
you don't use a dinner plate to cut food.
But I am a heathen.
True, but you're not working in a kitchen. I'm just saying, in a fucking kitchen.
He's just bad at everything he does.
He is fucking terrible. I mean, the only thing he's barely good at is avoiding death from Peter. And so he ends up skewering Peter in the back with a giant, I think that's a skewer you would put to a rotisserie chicken.
Oh, I was wondering what that was.
Yeah. That's what it appears to be.
That was real CGI 3D nonsense.
Yes, there's a lot of 3D nonsense here. It was of a time, and this is the one 3D movie, Gina, I did not get to watch in 3D.
Oh, this is the one that you would want.
Yes. Well, I managed to see The Final Destination in 3D. I also managed to watch Friday the 13th in 3D, Jaws in 3D, Parasite in 3D. I've watched a lot of crap in 3D. This is the one I couldn't get my hands on, unfortunately.
I feel like this was like the only one that did it well.
Yeah. So I can't speak to that point, but that now we're at the point where you think, okay, we've gotten past our main thrust of can we survive this ordeal, and we have our final couple, Sam and Molly, and they've mended their differences and they've decided to change their lives. And they're going to go to Paris, and Sam has that job in the restaurant where the end of the original Final Destination takes place, where the Ben Affleck guy gets skewered by a son. Cool. So they get on a plane, and they start looking around, and things seem a little bit off. And wouldn't you know it, they're on Flight 180. And this is a secret prequel, and the original movie is just beginning as their movie is ending. And I do love this.
Oh, I like it. I thought that was pretty clever.
It's incredible. It's horror history.
Yes.
I love it.
It just fucking works.
Oh, so good.
And not everything here works, but I do think this is on an arc of trying really hard, and I give it all the credit in the world where it's fucking
so clever.
trying.
And funny enough, also became a Donnie Darko sequel when that guy got hit by the engine. So.
Exactly. For weeks now, we've been asking for characters to get hit in the head with anvils. And now, Gina, we finally get it when Nathan is in a bar and he gets hit by a bunch of falling aircraft parts from Flight 180.
So rude. Oh, I guess all those people died also. So that's...
Yeah. There's like 9 other people. In
more collateral damage. Oh, Tom Cruise.
And so there you have it, folks. Any other quick thoughts about Final Destination 5?
Only that it's a perfect movie, and I'm grateful for its existence, and I think it should have gotten more Oscars.
More Oscars.
More than it got, which was already like 10 or something. So.
Yeah, it was the runaway hit.
I'm going to say it was a Black Horse candidate.
It was. And it was, I think, directed by literally James Cameron's protege, if you recall. So that's almost an Oscar. 1 degree of separation.
Sure.
And so let's play a quick game of Choose Your Own Death Venture where we decide of these deaths which one you would choose or why. Do you want to fall on a sailboat, get exploded by a cable, get sawed in half by a piece of sheet metal, end up with a car falling on you after you already fell off a bridge, pierce through the skull with a bunch of rebar and fall into a concrete piling, fall off a balance beam, or not a balance beam. She's on the parallel bars and gets snapped in half. Get your skull crushed by a Buddha statue. Fall onto a car after falling several stories out of a window, plus defenestration, thumbs up. Accidentally pushed into a metal hook and have that come through your head. Killed by a wrench off of a belt sander. Get shot 3 times in the back, which, come on. Impaled through the back by a meat skewer, sliced in half by a plane wing after you get sucked out of an airplane, burned to death in an explosion, or crushed by random pieces of falling airplane. Josh, you're our guest, and I choose you to go first.
I appreciate that. Now, here's a question for clarification. Do I have to die both ways that they died, or just the one way that they died?
Just the one way.
All right.
But you do have to be wearing the costume that they're wearing.
All right. The costume that they are wearing. I think I'm going to go with the... Oh, okay. I'm going to be Roy, and I'm going to get the things through my head because it's very... what's that YMCA band? It's kind of like a gay thing.
The Village People?
Yeah, very Village People, very queer-coded. So that's what I'm going to go with.
We're all for that. That makes total sense. And you have a very spongy head, so there you go.
Yeah.
Gina, what say you?
I'm going to take hit by falling plane parts in the middle of like giving a speech in a bar because I'm not going to see that coming.
Are you Donnie Darko? Was it you?
I might be.
Cool.
Yes, that's a definitive question. Listen, there are lots of ways I wouldn't want to go here. I think I'm going to take that wrench to the face because that's real fast. You fast. See wrench and then it's over.
Yeah, you don't know you're even dying, which is a gift.
Yes. So before we go, Josh Hollis does all of our artwork and Revenge Body does our music. Go to RevengeBodyMemphis at bandcamp.com for this remix and all our other tunes. Josh, where can people see and hear what you're doing right now?
Well, you can check out what I'm writing if you go to Dread Central, because I'm working on there every day, doing a lot of news. But you can also, more importantly, check out and subscribe to the Development Hell podcast. It's a show where I talk about the best horror movies that never got made. So we're talking about, like Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, Evil Dead 5, shit like that.
Awesome. Check it out, people. Gina, where can people find you on the internet?
I write about television and movies at thespool.net. I have a Substack, GinaWatchesThings.substack.com, and I am on Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok under Gina Does Things.
Do it today, people. Check it out. You know our socials. Come and find us on Patreon. We're doing extra junk that you will find very entertaining, and you can support us and all that we do here to keep this podcast free for you. That just about does it for this week. Don't worry. Halloween's coming up. And the body count will continue for myself, for Gina, and Josh. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Are we still here?
Yeah.
I am.
Did I go away?
No.
You did for a second there, I think.
Okay.
Oh.
All of time froze. I will fix that in the edit.
I mean, it wasn't that long. It wasn't that long.
Are you on Flight 180?
Yes.
Because your internet's great.
When it comes to the way we record this podcast, 60% of the time it works 100% of the time.